A stroke can happen to anyone at any time, which means that waiting to see if the symptoms are going to go away if someone is having a stroke is not an option. So are you prepared to take immediate action in the event that someone is having a stroke? Joining me today to talk about the signs and how you can be prepared, vascular neurologist Dr. Jennifer Rasmussen and stroke survivor Melissa Berg and her son, Tony Palamidessi. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Dr. Rasmussen, how common are strokes and who's at risk?
Strokes are actually really common. 800,000 people a year suffer from stroke. The risk factors for it are high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, smoking, and atrial fibrillation. Those are the main risks. But anyone can have a stroke, and there are other reasons you can have a stroke. So it's important for everyone to be aware of the signs and symptoms of stroke.
Is there a certain age group at risk for a stroke?
Anyone can suffer from a stroke.
Even a child?
Yes, I've actually treated a 14-year-old with a stroke.
Wow, so it's really important to know then the signs and symptoms. I understand that there are some non-traditional signs of a stroke in addition to the more traditional ones that I think most people are aware of.
Yeah, the more traditional ones are fast, face, arm, speech, and time, because time is of the essence for treatment. But the non-traditional ones are stuff like vision change, loss of vision in an eye, double vision, inability to walk. So you stand up and suddenly you're leaning to one side and you can't walk in a straight line. Loss of sensation on half of your body. There are 10 signs and symptoms of stroke, and for more details, I recommend that you go to signsofstroke.org to read about them and learn them.
And that means it's also important to know all the signs, not just FAST, F-A-S-T, because you could miss it, right?
Correct. And even stuff like if you can't walk, that could actually be a life-threatening stroke. And so it is important to know all the signs because, again, time is of the essence, and you don't want to miss something that we could potentially treat if you got in soon enough.
Melissa, I understand that you had a stroke. What kind of a stroke did you have?
I can never say it correctly, doctor.
So she had a large stroke that affected half of her brain. And because she got treatment early, that's what we see now with treatment.
Yes. Yeah.
I see. That's pretty massive, isn't it?
Yes.
So what happened the day that you experienced your stroke, Melissa?
I had recently moved from California, driven by car 3 days prior, 2,000 miles. So I kept attributing everything that I was experiencing to just being tired, exhausted, and I felt off and a slight bit of stiffness, tension in my neck, and I couldn't talk. And thank goodness my son realizes that I like to talk more than be quiet, and he kept asking me, Mom, are you okay? Are you just being emotional? Are you being nostalgic? We were out driving around looking at property. And thank goodness we were as close to the hospital as we were, and we were in a vehicle. Otherwise, he would have called 911 and had, them either come get me or, walk us through. But we called the hospital on the way. So in essence, we probably got there in half the time.
And when you were having your stroke, what did it feel like, Melissa?
So I just felt off. I felt out of sorts. In another way of explaining it, truly, I felt like I was having almost an out-of-body experience. I was totally coherent. I remember everything that went on while we were out looking at property and everything. I don't remember everything once we hit the hospital because I had actually stroked out twice while I was there. But I just didn't feel right. And I kept saying, or thinking in my mind, I'm just tired. And thank God we were out looking at property, because if we had been at my son's home, I would have said, I'm tired. I'm going to go take a nap. And that would have been the worst case scenario for me, because the type of stroke that I had, I basically had a 3-hour window to be able to get the medication that was given to me. And I definitely would have gone beyond that had I gone to sleep.
Tony, it sounds to me like you were your mom's guardian angel. How did you know that she was having a stroke?
So I actually did not at first, which is because I just attributed her moving and being tired and kind of being nostalgic. I mean, she lived in California her entire life and just moved to Texas. So I just thought she was kind of looking out the window, reminiscing. And like she said, I mean, I always make fun of her because I always told her to land the plane because she's always chatting. But I realized it's like, okay, she's been silent for way too long. So that's when I kind of turned around and noticed, as Dr. Rasmussen said, is fast, and I noticed her face was drooping, her arms were kind of drooping, her right side, and she wasn't speaking. So as we wanted to get there, get to the hospital as quick as possible, I should, if I wasn't so close, I would have called 911, but we literally were 5 minutes from the hospital. So I didn't realize how severe it was, though, till we actually got there. And I was going to take her out of the car, and she was just complete dead weight because her entire right side was pretty much shut down. So I bear hugged her and put her in a wheelchair, and off they ran, and they got, her medicine and whatever she needed as quick as possible. So, thankfully we were right there, and it was not a whole lot of time.
You were indeed a blessing to your mom that day.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't either. I mean, I wanted to fight it. I fought it for the first couple minutes. I'm like, my mom's fine. She's healthy. She's, in great shape. And there can't be something wrong with her. And at the end of the day, it's like, just listen to your brain. Like, it's telling you something's wrong. Like, just go with it. So.
Dr. Rasmussen, I think that might happen to a lot of people, but they don't realize what's going on, right?
He recognized that there was something wrong and knew to get her in immediately. In the process of an ischemic stroke, 1.9 million neurons die per minute. So him recognizing, first of all, that his mom wasn't talking, and then going back and saying, oh, her face looks funny, and getting her to a hospital really saved her ability to talk and interact with us today. So he is in many ways a hero.
And what if Melissa had been alone? Was there anything that she could have done if she recognized the signs and symptoms? Or are you not able to recognize them if you're having a stroke?
Well, if you recognize it, you should dial 911 for someone to come in. The problem is with Melissa, she lost her ability to talk. So she may have been able to get to a phone and dial, but she wouldn't have been able to talk into it. Again, any way that you can alert someone and get help there is really important because minutes matter in ischemic stroke.
Tony and Melissa, what do you hope people will learn from your story?
To err on the side of caution. And, if you think something is not right, and the hardest thing is when it's yourself. Generally, you ignore anything. You attribute it to anything but what it could potentially be. So call 911. Tell someone. My son asked me while we were driving around, Mom, do you want to go to the hospital? I said no. Don't listen to the person that you think may be in trouble because they don't know what they're talking about. So if you think there's a concern, it's better to look foolish and have your parent, be alive than to say, I don't want to be embarrassed and, have them be disabled for life or possibly dead.
Dr. Rasmussen, where can we go for more information?
There's a website, signsofstroke.org.
Thank you so much, Melissa and Tony. Sometimes telling your story is kind of tough, but I want to thank you for sharing that with us today. And Dr. Rasmussen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.